So today we're going to speak about myopia, one of the most common conditions that can affect the eye, whether in childhood or even adults. If we look at the prevalence of myopia, worldwide population is about 30%. This means 3 out of 10 people you meet every day, they could be affected by myopia. However, there is a big geographical differences on the prevalence of myopia. For example, Asia can be up to 70%. Europe is around 40%, and Africa is the least with around 20%. And we will explain why, because these are some of the areas that we have seen have increased dramatically over the past 20 years. If we look to the prevalence of myopia around year 2000, it was only worldwide around 23%. So there must have been something that came up that have led to the increase of this prevalence of myopia. So before getting into the myopia, let me start by the first thing to define what is actually how light is focusing inside the eye in order that we can get a clear image. If you remember from one of the previous episodes, we said very clearly that in order for the eye to see, the light comes and reflects on an object, could be a human being, could be a tree, could be a pen, and actually the light travels through the eye, through the cornea, through the pupil, through the lens, and it has to fall on the center of the retina, which is the macula. This is where we can see faces, where we can read. This is the best part that the light is focusing on. If fall on the retina, will be the best image. And then actually the light transfers into an electrical signal. This electrical signal travels through the optic nerve to the brain, where the brain can comprehend the image. If the light falls in the center of the retina, this we call it myopia, and this means that I can see clearly at a distance or at a near vision. However, if the light falls in front of the retina, this is where we call it myopia. And myopia has another name, is nearsightedness. This means that these patients can see clearly the near objects, so they can read, they can write, they can see clear objects. However, when it comes to distant vision, it becomes very blurry. Another error of refraction can happen if the light, instead of focusing on the retina, it falls behind the retina. In this case, we call it hyperopia or hypermetropia or farsightedness. And those patients are actually have the ability to read at a very high distance or to see objects at a very high distance, but once you test them on near vision, they see blurry near objects or blurry near vision. Another condition also happens when there is irregularity in the cornea of the eye, which results that the light or the rays of light that entering into the eye become distorted. And they actually fall irregularly either in front or behind the retina. And this distortion caused also distorted vision and condition we call it astigmatism. Astigmatism can happen with myopia, can happen also with hyperopia. So these are the most common errors of refractions that we see. Myopia is normal. Myopia, light falls in front of the retina. Hyperopia, light falls behind the retina. And astigmatism, the light becomes distorted because of the cornea. Which structure of the eye is responsible for this important refraction and having the light to focus on the retina? 2 structures. It's the cornea and it's the lens. The cornea has to have a very smooth curvature in order to allow for the rays to enter clearly. And the lens, it has muscles that we spoke about called ciliary muscles, which give the ability to accommodate when we shift from distance to near to intermediate vision, so as the light can fall exactly on the retina. Now, let's talk about what are the types of myopia and what are the difference between these types and the causes of myopia.